Oi, oi, alright, how's it going? I'm Grant, you're you, this is Doodle Review, and we're a channel that talk about all types of music, but if it's got a whiff of guitar or alternative rock sort of vibe, we're all over it like a cheap suit. And if that's your vibe, you should subscribe. We pretty much review something in the rock category every other day. You'll definitely hear me talk about a band you know and that you love in an upcoming video, and maybe you'll find something that you don't yet know that you'll love. Today though, we're talking about Sleater-Kinney. Have a look. So Little Rope is the 11th album from Sleater-Kinney, a duo, formerly a trio, that can comfortably wear any of the labels assigned to them, whether it's post-riot girl, post-punk, alternative or art rock, yet the most accurate label would really just be Sleater-Kinney. The duo of vocalist-guitarist Corin Tucker and guitarist-vocalist Carrie Brownstein are in the very small percentile of bands with a genuinely unique and easily identifiable sound. On the last dispatch from the band, 2021's Path of Wellness, they were trading in a very organic sound. The characteristic right angles were of course still infused into the dueling guitarist compositions, but the instrumentation felt warm, round, soft and somewhat comfortable. An interesting contrast, because thematically the album was a document of that period of life in 2020 to 2021 when society was turned completely upside down and things just got weird for a bit. Observational lyrics from the duo were astute, cynical and often amusing, skewering the turmoil while also trying to make sense of it. On Little Rope, the band are working through similar amounts of life-altering turmoil, but where Path of Wellness have been able to take more of an outsider's perspective on events affecting the collective, this time around the turmoil couldn't have been any closer to home. Early on in the process of writing, Carrie Brownstein received a sudden phone call that her parents, who'd been vacationing in Italy, had been in a car accident that sadly neither of them survived. Naturally, the seismic shockwave of grief felt by Brownstein and Tucker, who is both bandmate and close friend, had a powerful influence on the direction of the record they were working on, and this is evident emotionally, instrumentally, compositionally, and even in the production, because Path of Wellness had a bounce, a groove, even a spring in its step that added a cynical layer of irony, underlining the absolute hysteria of society at the time. But on Little Rope, that sarcastic swagger has been replaced with a motoric, mechanical, robotic aesthetic, punctuated by explosions of raw organic rage. A robotic, new wave, almost dark wave sensibility can be heard most obviously on songs like Hunt You Down and Crusader, but is quite consistent under the surface of the entire record. It's a reflection of that journey of grief where life in one sense does become cold, repetitive and hypnotic in its mundanity, but at the very same time seems chaotic, uncontrollable and utterly savage. The Sleater-Kinney sound has always been defined by the dueling guitars of its two lead songwriters, and as such, bass is very much a supporting character compositionally. Rather than a member that needs to be fairly considered at all times, it can be added, removed and adapted without regard to any kind of ego. On Path of Wellness, the low end was almost always represented in the form of a bass guitar, which was intrinsic to providing the kind of ironic groove I mentioned earlier. Again, by comparison, Little Rope is completely different. To my ears, there are very few examples of an actual bass guitar. Instead, we almost always hear an analog synth-like sound, both warm but cold and distant, suitably adding to the sequenced mechanical backbone of the album. Doing press for this record, Brownstein revealed that she actually found a lot of solace in playing guitar to work through her pain. The movement of physically playing, she says, actually moving her fingers up and down the fretboard prevented her from becoming completely locked in her grief. And I think it's testament to the artist's compositional instincts then that while these songs were born during a period of intense appreciation of that instrument, the guitar is really tastefully used and often held back with a remarkable restraint, allowing songs and in turn the emotions to really breathe, but also those moments of frantic raw aggression to be even more impactful. This restraint even extends to other instruments. While this might not be technically true, it feels like the drums rarely play anything above an open hi-hat when it comes to cymbals on the album. The exception being the absolutely explosive choruses we hear on the bookend tracks Hell and Untidy Creature. Both of these songs are unquestionably the highlights of this album for me. The raw, and I'm aware I keep using that word, but the raw attack of that high-pitched lead guitar on the chorus of Hell, supported by the rare appearance of loud crash cymbals, absolutely kind of sends shivers up my spine. Equally, the emotionally intensity from Corin Tucker in the delivery of the chorus and Untidy Creature is so visceral, it's sensational. I almost wish there was more of it on the album, but at the same time I'm just not sure I could bear it. So much does it kind of pierce through the emotional armour of day-to-day life and kind of hit that raw nerve of angst. I will say that opening and closing the album with such fire does give the tracks that make up the body of Little Rope, it gives them an almost impossible challenge to keep the listener as gripped as those songs, especially when the production is so intent on really holding back on those moments of intensity. There's nothing bad about this album, but I do find moments where that restrained production just clips the wings of a few tracks, again, especially by comparison to the opener and closer. Crusader, for instance, can't quite meet its indie disco beat halfway due to the darkened instrumental palette of the chorus, and I feel like Six Mistakes really deserves the same type of chorus and explosion as a song like Hell, but it never really arrives. Remarkably, some tracks really do rise to that challenge though. Say It Like You Mean It hits us with an emotional but also catchy vocal hook in its chorus, in addition to the perfectly executed kinetic but slightly muted drum fill we get just prior to that aforementioned chorus, which is amazing. Little touches like that really elevate the whole song and present another example of the great production on the record. Dress Yourself also manages to meet and even exceed the challenge presented to it, but not by attempting to go bigger. The track has a sparse arrangement with a beautifully haunting and melancholic lead synth or a processed guitar melody that is an instant hook and really stays with you. In the end, while the album's best songs really lay down a gauntlet that not all tracks can kind of pick up, this is a raw, emotional and often thrilling reflection of grief that manages to cover some new ground for Sleater-Kinney while sounding unquestionably them. I'd give this a 7.9. But alright, that's enough faff from me. Are you a Sleater-Kinney stan? How does this stack up for you? Let me know. Subscribe, share some thoughts, show some love. Just tell some abuse in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, mate. Bye.